Area schools consider whether to implement mask rules for unvaccinated kids. A Joplin man who serves the local homeless community learns what it's like to live on the streets.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
As vaccine trials get underway for children younger than 12 years old, one question is whether students who are not vaccinated should still be required to wear masks. This is KOAM News at 10. School districts in our area have dropped mask mandates in favor of voluntary masking for students. Carthage officials say they don't plan to mandate masks for the upcoming school year, and they're testing voluntary masking right now.
During our summer school right now, we're experimenting not wearing masks, and so far things are going well. We're in our second week. We have not had any type of spike. We don't have any positive cases right now.
Baker says they'll monitor COVID trends during the school year, and they're prepared to go to mandatory masking if there's a spike in cases. Nick, Kelly, kind of a muggy night out there.
Yeah, but on the plus side, Dal, the storms that we had, the isolated storms we had to start the evening out, they're gone now, but definitely a muggy night ahead of us. At the very least, the rain chances we had didn't stop us from warming up. 66 this morning. 20-degree jump to 86 for Joplin Regional this afternoon. All the rain that we had, at least the few showers that we had to start the evening out, again, they're gone. Partly cloudy skies remain in place while our main upper level low is still spinning across southern parts of Illinois, but any of that upper level low producing any big time storms staying well to the south. In terms of the overnight, again, we're staying dry, but it's going to be kind of muggy, and we will see temperatures continue to drop off, but you can see how upper 60s to maybe some spots near 70 overnight. It's going to be kind of a mild and muggy start to the morning, Dow, but there is a little taste of summer heat headed our way. We'll break down the numbers here in a bit.
All right, catch you then. Thanks, Nick. An advocate for the homeless is working to improve the lives of the homeless in Joplin. He's doing that, at least in part, by better understanding how they live. KOAM's Bronte Sorotsky tells us what he's learned so far.
Just trying to create awareness so that people will see that there's folks out here wanting to do something.
Joe Johnson, also known as the Accidental Activist, is the director of an organization addressing those experiencing homelessness in Joplin called HEAT.
Spending a week being homeless, I left my home. I'm sleeping in a tent in an undisclosed location. I have just the basic needs, and I'm not taking any donations from anybody.
Now, he's using the next 7 days to better understand what he can do to help Joplin's homeless.
I have had people honk, give me thumbs up. I've had people yell at me, get a job.
And with temperatures getting warmer, he's had to figure out how to stay safe in the heat.
When we're done here, I'm going to go sit in the shade right behind me, and that's about it. There just aren't options. Places that are open during the day, they close eventually. And so it's just figure it out. Being homeless is just figuring it out.
Diana Gurley, executive director of Souls Harbor, a shelter and cooling center in Joplin, says rising temperatures can be concerning, especially for those without shelter.
They're out there and they're in the heat, the humidity, it will dehydrate them really quickly, and so then they get all that heat exposure and then they start having heat strokes.
Gurley adds that having someone in this field get a small glimpse of what the homeless population experience every day will help when it comes to taking care of them. In Joplin, Bronte Sorotsky, KOAM News.
For anyone experiencing homelessness in need of a cooling center, Souls Harbor is open from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. Deadline is fast approaching for local artists to register for this year's Joplin Arts Fest. That deadline is June 18th. Arts Fest will run September 17th and 18th. Like a lot of events, last year's Arts Fest was canceled due to the pandemic, but now it's back and in a new home. In the past, Arts Fest was hosted near Mercy Park, but this year it's going to be at Joplin's Empire Market on East 4th Street. You can find a link to register on our website. Of course, that's KOAMnewsnow.com. Joplin's Cunningham Aquatic Center will open this weekend only, but the Schifferdecker Aquatic Center will be closed for a Joplin Stingrays swim team meet. Joplin Parks and Rec Department says they have not been able to hire enough lifeguards to open all city pools every weekend. This season's normal operating schedule for Joplin pools will resume on Monday, the 14th. Clay shooting competitors get their shot. Clay shooters from 45 states and 4 foreign countries are in southeast Kansas for the U.S. Open of clay shooting. Claythorne Lodge, west of Columbus, hosts the event and says it brings in some of the best shooters in the world. But it's open to all shooters in all classes. Organizers say the event will have more than 1,000 participants, including more than 24 world and national champions and a member of the U.S. Olympic team. The lodge expects to throw more than 1.3 million targets. That event runs through Sunday. Still ahead, U.S. law enforcement uses technology to bust hundreds of criminals around the world, and the U.S. releases a bipartisan report on the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Oklahoma State Treasurer Randy McDaniel says Oklahoma's economy is recovering from the pandemic downturn, with revenue collections in May 34% higher than in May of 2020. McDaniel today said the state collected $1.24 billion in May. That's more than $300 million more than the same month a year ago. McDaniel said the economy was spurred as quarantines were lifted and businesses reopened, releasing pent-up demand for goods and services. McDaniel said the strongest indicator of increased economic activity is sales and use tax collections, which increased 26% from last year. Hundreds of criminal suspects are under arrest tonight following an unprecedented crackdown powered by an FBI-developed smartphone. Elise Preston reports.
It's being hailed as a first-of-its-kind global sting operation, one whose targets told investigators exactly what they were doing.
The very devices that the criminals used to hide their crimes were actually a beacon for law enforcement.
The suspects were tricked into using cell phones that came preloaded with an encrypted messaging service called ALMANAC. They thought it would allow them to evade detection, but the app was developed by the FBI and other law enforcement agencies.
Each and every device in this case was utilized to further criminal activity.
The FBI said the phones were only sold through the black market.
You cannot walk into a Verizon or AT&T store and purchase one of these devices. You must know somebody who sells them and be vetted by them.
Some 27 million messages were intercepted, most involving criminal activity like drug trafficking and money laundering. The operation has already led to at least 800 arrests and the seizure of 8 tons of cocaine and more than 250 firearms.
We have arrested the alleged kingmakers behind these crimes, prevented mass shootings in suburbs, and frustrated serious and organised crime by seizing their ill-gotten wealth.
Earlier this year, security flaws were discovered in the app. That prompted many users to abandon the service, which signaled investigators to move in. Elise Preston, CBS News.
The service, codenamed Operation Trojan Horse, went live in October of 2019, and at its peak was being used by a network made up of roughly 12,000 devices. There's a new bipartisan report from the Senate out today saying law enforcement should have been better prepared for the January 6th assault on the U.S. Capitol, and it identified security and intelligence failures surrounding the attack. The new report says Capitol Intelligence saw social media posts as far back as December about a plot to breach the Capitol, including maps of the building's tunnels and threats of violence against members of Congress. But it adds that the Capitol Police Force's Intelligence Division did not convey the full scope of known information to leadership, rank-and-file officers, or law enforcement partners.
Part of the reason it was overlooked is people were saying, well, this just can't happen. These groups of folks, they can't do that. Well, now we know they can.
In a response, U.S. Capitol Police said in part it welcomes the analysis and agrees improvements are needed specific to intelligence analysis and dissemination. However, it insisted that at no point prior to the 6th did it receive actionable intelligence about a large-scale attack. Vice President Kamala Harris is in Mexico City today for a meeting with the President of Mexico. The two are looking to build on a virtual meeting last month to expand cooperation between the two countries, tackling the root causes of migration from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. In Guatemala yesterday, Harris warned would-be illegal migrants not to come to the U.S. Experts warn that carbon dioxide levels have reached a dangerous new high. The annual peak is now said to be 50% higher than that at the start of the industrial age. The average rate of increase is also said to be faster than ever. Scientists say the rate of carbon dioxide emissions needs to be drastically slashed in order to make progress against such growth. The 10-year average rate of increase has also set a record, up 2.4 parts per million per year. Diet could play a role in how sick a person gets from COVID-19. New findings in the British Medical Journal shows people with plant-based or fish-based diets are up to 73% less likely to experience severe symptoms. Doctors believe the nutrients found in vegetables and healthy fish help boost a person's immune system. Later, from the diamond to the track, a Southeast Kansas athlete tackles an entirely different sport.
But first, we got to tackle some more rain chances in the forecast and an early taste of summer heat, too. Forecast up next. It was the same story for yet another day. We had to deal with the quiet start this morning, mild temperatures in the mid-60s, then the warmth and the humidity back in action once again. But any scattered showers, couple of storms we had, they skirted around our time-lapse of Indigo Sky Casino and Resort outside of Seneca, Missouri. So we just had our fair share of cloud cover from this vantage point pass on throughout the course of the day. And again, it was a quiet start all across the area this morning. Then once we got the afternoon started, the scattering of showers and a couple of thunderstorms. Nothing too strong, nothing severe, thankfully, but at the strongest, these showers were trying to bring moderate to heavy pockets of rainfall that left some of you with about half an inch to an inch of rainfall. Not widespread, but for those that are not a fan of the rain chances, like the past few nights, once we lost the sun, they fizzled apart, and we are looking absolutely dry now as we go through the rest of the night. But as I take you outside the 7th and range line, it looks quiet, sure. We're going to stay quiet overnight, but it's still kind of warm, so kind of muggy too. 76 in Joplin, at least it feels like that, despite the dew point still sitting around a soupy 71 degrees. It's pretty much the same story elsewhere, mid to upper 70s all across the board. But we are going to try and trend back near 69 as we go through the overnight with partly cloudy skies in place. Again, our rain chances for the day are done, and the deep south had to deal with some more strong to severe storms, and for the most part, they have finally started to fall apart as well. Nothing at the surface in terms of our big setup really stands out to me, except for this stubborn frontal system stuck well to our north and west. This might try to make a run for us as we go into early next week to try and dry things out. But overall, it's still the upper levels that are in charge. This upper low still just cut off from the jet stream, still trying to leave us with a few showers to contend with tomorrow. But note the big blue H down in Mexico. That's the main upper level ridge really starting to build in, and that will definitely come into play within the next few days. Let's take you through your future track for the next 2 days, though, starting with tonight and your Wednesday morning. Again, a dry night, but kind of a mild and muggy start to the morning with everybody in the upper 60s, but dry again to start the day. Then we'll have to contend with a few random showers, maybe a couple random storms once again, but like the past several days, nothing strong, nothing severe, but don't be surprised if you get caught underneath a good downpour. 69 in the morning, thinking 82 by noon, afternoon highs right around 87. Fast forward to Wednesday night. If we had any stray showers to start the evening out, they'll fall apart after sunset. We'll dry to start your Thursday morning out, and then we'll go into the upper 80s, most spots around 88, with maybe a random shower or two to dodge on Thursday afternoon. This upper low finally gets a hit and clears out on Friday, but as long as we still have some energy trying to ride around this building upper level ridge, I want to keep an eye out for some scattered storms Friday and Saturday. But the big story this weekend and early next week is this building ridge, shoving that jet stream well to the north and east. And look at what it does with our temperatures down the road. 87 tomorrow, 88 Thursday, 90 for Friday and Saturday. We're dry Sunday and Monday, Dow, sure, but hot and kind of humid with highs in the lower 90s. It's not officially summer yet, but it will start to feel like it this weekend.
Yeah, you bet. Once it hits 90 for sure. Thanks, Nick. As the weather heats up and COVID restrictions lift, more people are flocking to lakes and rivers, and canoes and kayaks are popular ways to enjoy the water. Well, to help people learn more about the watercraft, the Missouri Department of Conservation today hosted clinics at Kellogg Lake in Carthage. The Introduction to Canoe and Kayak clinics taught people about basic equipment and techniques for safely using Missouri streams and lakes.
Right now, we've had so much rain, there's lots of water, and there's lots of swift current, and it's really, really not safe for a lot of beginners to be out on some of these waters, so being able to find a nice, still section of water and practice is really key right now.
The clinics were open to anyone ages 7 and up. Some area kids today worked on their green thumb in Webb City. The Webb City Farmers Market hosted a kids gardening club. The club's designed for kids to learn about starting their own gardens and how to keep those gardens thriving.
I think it's a lifelong skill when you teach a child to garden. It's something they can do throughout their life. It helps them connect to their food so that they can perhaps make healthier choices and be proud of the food that they're eating.
Every child got to take home a seed project to begin their own garden. Coming up in sports, the Joplin Outlaws hit the road for the first time this summer. Plus, a former Southeast Kansas baseball standout continues a family tradition and begins his racing career. Jacob Leonard has that story next.
The Joplin Outlaws suffered their first loss of the season last night, falling to St. Joe 8-5. And with that loss, the Outlaws are now 3-1 through their first 4 games. Tonight, Joplin on the road for the first time this summer, facing the Nevada Griffins. That one is final. Nevada wins at 4-3. Chase Bider, Missouri Southern junior, gets a walk-off single in the bottom of the 9th for the Griffins. Now, the Outlaws have tomorrow off before hosting Sedalia on Thursday. American Legion baseball here. Pittsburgh posts 64 at home against Montgomery County. Bottom of the 3rd inning, game still scoreless. Ethan Light lifts it into left center. That brings around Gavin Wampler. Home team up 1. Then Blaine Dunstan. Grounder pass first. That will score 2. Puts post 64 up by 3. Later on in the same inning, Brett Sutterby. The rocket through the left side. That brings in 2 more. Patriots go up 6 after 3. Cardinals trying to respond here. Ryan Leiker through the infield. Brings in 1. Patriots, though, still up 5 then. The bottom of the 5th, Caston Fields. Hill in the ball game. Drives it to center here to score 2. That's enough. Post 64 gets the win 12-1 in 5 innings. Jarrett Dotson was an all-state pitcher for Baxter Springs High School and a 4-year player for Pitt State baseball. He was the Kansas Pitcher of the Year at Baxter Springs and led them to a state championship in 2016. Now, though, with baseball behind him, Dotson has found a new way to keep competing.
He's been a pitcher for most of his life, but now
I always have had a love for going fast.
He has moved on to the racetrack.
Yeah, it's just one of the best feelings in the world, honestly.
Just 1 week after finishing his baseball career at Pitt State, Jarrett Dotson jumped in a car and competed in his first race.
I'm a lot more nervous getting in this race car sometimes before races than I really ever was in baseball, which is kind of funny because I've played in some pretty big games here and there.
When he was pitching, he was in control. He was out there. It was his game to win or lose. And you get into these cars and, when you've got 16 of them bunched up, at 80 to 100 miles an hour, there's not much room for error.
Racing is a family tradition for Dotson, with both his dad and grandpa competing before him.
I had the privilege of racing back in the 90s at Joplin. We raced all over the Midwest and had some success, but as a dad, watching your son excel and achieving what his dream to come true is far superior to anything that I've ever done.
He even built his first car with his dad last winter.
If you're into mechanics and cars and stuff like that, getting to build a car with your dad is one of the coolest things that you can do as a kid.
I got to do that with my dad, and my dad went to heaven a long time ago. And for him and I to be under the race car working together and me explaining and sharing my knowledge, it's just been a really special time for he and I. Just sharing something like this is something he and I can do for many years to come. So we're excited about the future of what Jared has the opportunity to do in these race cars.
Dotson is just getting started and has bigger plans for his racing career. For now, though,
cross that road when we come to it. I'm just trying to get us through this first season first without really tearing anything up.
Dotson has competed in 4 races in the last 2 weeks. He already picked up his first top 10 finish on Friday night, and he plans on being right back out there this weekend. And that's a look at sports. We're back with more news after this.
We take time now to honor a local veteran. Sergeant Randy Gilbreth served in the U.S. Army. His hometown, Altamont, Kansas, and we are proud to salute Sergeant Randy Gilbreth. He's tonight's 4-state hero. Brood X cicadas have emerged in the east from their 17-year slumber below ground, turning out in the billions. Across the Cincinnati area, cicadas are at or near their peak. In fact, Cincinnati police say a cicada is responsible for this single-car crash. According to police, a cicada flew through an open car window, striking the driver in the face. That driver then crashed into that pole. The driver had only minor injuries, but the car is totaled. No word on the condition of the cicada. Yes, they are harmless, but you get one of those smacked in your face and it's going to distract you from your...
On the other hand, if you've seen the cicada, please contact local authorities.
There you go. It is wanted. The weather is muggy out there.
Yeah, that's not the weather we want, but we got to deal with it. 87 tomorrow, a few random storms in the afternoon, pushing near 90 by the weekend.
Final sports note.
Bad news in the major leagues tonight. Cards fall to the Indians 10-1. The Royals down 6-0 to the Angels in the 6th.
Let's take care of ourselves and each other and make it a great tomorrow.